Today on CityCast Madison. Tone Madison just dropped their list of the best new music from the Madison scene last year, with their takes on the most impactful songs and albums. The Powerhouse Arts and Politics website wants to introduce you to some of the local gems you may have missed. Tone editor-in-chief Scott Gordon picked 5 of his favorites to share with us. It's Thursday. I'm Bianca Martin, and this is CityCast Madison. Scott, welcome to CityCast Madison.
Thank you for having me.
Why did Tone want to do a year-end music roundup?
The biggest thing for us is that we want to obviously be selective about what we're putting in there, but we also want to give people a sense of the variety of local music and just sort of the breadth of what's out there, and the fact that it's always changing, and the fact that it's, pretty impossible to boil it down to like one genre or one scene. The biggest challenge is just trying to do justice to that. So it gives us a chance to at least kind of follow up a little bit and try to engage with things substantively.
Totally. And honestly, Tone is really the main place I go to find new music. Like, that's one of my favorite things about Tone. We asked you to pick 5 of your top songs from one of your pieces of music coverage from 2022.
It was hard to pick 5 songs just because we covered dozens of releases. So I tried to pick up an interesting variety of things.
Let's dive in. The first song is from Wizard Magic, and the title, if you all are ready for this, ready? Beheaded for appearing before the king at court, whilst thou wert smoking and wearing thy sunglasses. Tell us a little bit about this choice.
Obviously, that title is pretty wild. I don't know if that came from some kind of AI process or what have you, but this is a project from a guy named Casey Bushmaker who... In this project, in this track specifically, he's working with some sample-based production techniques. He also does a lot of interesting musical tinkering. There's this MIDI guitar thing that he created a while back. That's pretty fascinating.
An inventor?
Yeah, I think you could call him that for sure. I mean, aside from just the title being funny, which it is, I like that this track is kind of playful and it's a little bit funky, and he's using that kind of sample-based production to work in a lot of, variety into a tight structure with these different instrumental components and these kind of odd, percussive textural things going off kind of on the side of the mix.
My first reaction to that was it reminded me of the cantina scene from Star Wars. That's what the creatures would be jamming to if they were there, and I would want to be a part of it. Does that track for you?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's goofy and off the wall, but it's well constructed, and there's a lot of themes going on that draw you in.
It also reminds me of, I don't know if you ever encountered one of those, it's 90s computer games, about the encyclopedia, it was trying to teach you something, and there are all these old, weird graphics, I don't know. I feel I could see a lot of fun graphics play, artists doing different video setups to that song. It brought up a lot of imagery for me.
Something to listen to while installing your new After Dark screensaver software or something.
Exactly. So the second song is from Red Pants, and the title is In the Passing Time. Can you tell us a little bit about this choice?
Yeah, so this is from an album called When We Were Dancing, and it is one of 2 releases that this band put out in 2022. And this is a duo of Jason Lambeth and Elsa Nicola. What I like about this track is that it's really sweet and kind of nostalgic, but it has this punch to it. And it's a great example of a so-called lo-fi recording that actually brings dimension to a song and gives it force rather than kind of like flattening or condensing it. The songwriting on this album and then an EP that they put out later in the year called Gentle Centuries is just really strong. The way that the vocals of the two members come together on this track is really, really powerful. If anyone out there likes Saturday Looks Good to Me or projects like that, that's a band that's close to my heart. So this is a little bit in that vein almost, but definitely it's got its own take on sort of pop and shoegazy sounds and punky sounds, but still like really melodic and sweet and considered.
There's definitely something very sweet about that song, and I'm a fan. I feel like I understand lo-fi, but what does that mean? Because I feel like I can hear it, like I almost understand it, but that I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. But what does that mean?
When I say lo-fi, that's kind of a term that's maybe a little bit overused and a little bit squishy, but it does capture this kind of like frizzy sort of analog sound. It's not super polished, but the way that they're using that approach feels really deliberate, and there are these kind of dynamics in the song, like the moment that kicks in the clip that you played, where you can really kind of feel this like rising action and sort of like a lot of feeling like under that kind of sweet surface that are super, that have like an intensity to them.
Definitely. Let's go to song 3. You picked from the group The Awkward Sleep, a song called Descend. Tell us about this choice.
Yeah, so this is another duo. It's a couple named Rue Wood and Tyler Wood, and they've made music together for years, but I think the album they put out this year was their first full-length album for this project. Some of my favorite moments on this album really lean into this kind of like slinky, like trip-hop vibe. And there's lots of other elements going on in the songwriting and the production and lots of different influences they're working in. And the name of the album is Starlight and Doom.
You're trying to make me play the victim. You're trying to make me play the part. To go, to seize, to love on your knees. There's never practice in our hearts. Play the damn fiddle with your doubt. To run, to smirk, to wear all of your tears.
I mess with that. I mess with that a lot. That's witchy vibes. I just like feel like it's the beginning of Charmed. I don't even remember that show of the 90s. Oh my God, that is so hypnotic.
Yeah, there's a ton of atmosphere to it, and it's also really grounded in really nice hooks and really strong like choices that they're using with the rhythms. That drum sample in there is really effective and gives it that sort of like slinky vibe. I think I maybe already used the word slinky.
I love slinky. That is really, really good. It's like slinky. It's sensual. It's hypnotic. It's super vibey. I'm about it. I definitely need to listen to the rest of that album. Let's hear the next one from Good Corners, the song Poor Lightning. Talk about that.
So Good Corners is a duo that does sort of kind of a mix of ambient music and like cosmic Americana. John Hitchcock is also a printmaker and an art professor at UW-Madison. He also has this project called Bury the Hatchet. That's a really interesting music project that has also like tied into some installation work that he's done. And Ryan Lansing is the other member, and they're bringing together a bunch of kind of analog electronic elements, but also pedal steel and baritone guitars. There's plenty of good, like, kind of, for lack of a better term, cosmic Americana music out there.
There is truly not a better term. I have never heard cosmic Americana, not to interrupt, but had to because my heart, that's like an explosion of the two things that I love. Carry on.
Like, if anyone out there enjoys William Tyler, who's a really great guitarist, this might be kind of up your alley. They managed to capture just a really wide variety of like emotional territory on the album they put out this year, which is called Corners, Bloody Corners. And, you have these kind of ringing guitar hooks and swoopy pedal steel things going on. There's a real like richness to the atmosphere they're able to create from this patchwork of elements.
Let's give it a listen. I really hear what you were saying about the spaciousness, the resonance, but it doesn't feel too full. Like it really is really excellently balanced, I guess you could say.
It's very much an ambient record in that it works if you just kind of sink into it. And if you're not trying to move too fast, I think it works really well on that level.
It like tells a narrative without any lyrics. And you can hear a little bit of that. And I just picture some person like walking by the train tracks, like really going on an inner journey. But I love Cosmic Americana. That's my new vibes. And then the last song that you picked, I know you said it was hard, but this is the last one we're going to share, is from Defunk and the Grease Monkeys, and it's 92.29. Tell us about this choice.
Yeah, so Defunk and the Grease Monkeys are basically a hip-hop act that's also a live band, and this is the last track of a short EP they put out this year. And this kind of demonstrates why we try to take EPs really seriously and not just full-length albums when we're putting this year-end covers together, because even in 3 or 4 songs, an artist can make a strong statement and give you a really powerful picture of where they're at. And the MC Defunk turns in this great performance. The verses have this balance of sort of playful structural elements and personal themes. Like each passage kind of kicks off with a reference to a different famous MCs. I think the first one is to Black Thought, and then there's some others like Andre 3000 and stuff. And each one becomes this kind of launching pad for reflections and wordplay. It's a 3-song EP called 92.29 GM FM.
Like a radio station.
Yes. And so even though it's short, there's like little interstitials that sort of package it up as this radio broadcast. It's super fun, but definitely shows just how well this band has gelled together in creating this like kind of funky live hip hop sound.
Love it. Let's listen.
I tried to be Andre, but I wasn't deep enough. Stuck in my head, I felt depression creeping up. 3 stacks gone like that because I needed stuff. I was wary, retail therapy wasn't cheap enough. Leaking blood from the morning to the evening sun. Leave it up to me because y'all need the funkin' Negress monkeys. We running the country in time. We taking that money, giving it back to the kids and redistribute to the hungry. I tried to be Lupe, but that was a fiasco. Way before I knew that it was all about the cash flow.
That is a bop. That's a full bop and a half. That's 100 bops. I feel like I'm hearing the neo soul, I'm hearing the funk, I'm hearing the hip hop, the lyricism, the flow is so fresh. I love everything about this song.
Yeah, I really like how the keyboards and saxophone get a chance to stretch out on this track. The saxophonist is a young jazz saxophonist named Maggie Cousin, who's done a bunch of great work both in jazz and in hip hop production. And I think this song began as Maggie like creating a beat a few years ago, and it gradually evolved into this.
Well, I'm excited to listen to more of them for sure. And I wanted to note, we've been thinking about, we're a new podcast, think about music. Our music was done by Carl Christensen, one of the masterminds behind Crib Shitter, one of the singers. And we just wanted to throw out the fact that he did our music. And I understand that he did make Tone's top 20 albums list. So he's a part of this coverage.
Yeah, the latest Crib Shitter album, Going Soft, is in the top 20 records list for sure.
We actually do have a little bit of from one of those songs, so let's give that a roll.
And the city streets are paved with amethyst. They got rose quartz growing on the tennis court, and the bloodstone marigolds. Oh, you cut them with a ruby knife in Crystal City. You make your own life.
I appreciate you, Scott, for joining us, for coming on the show today to talk about some of your top picks and doing that work for us and bringing them forward. Are there any other notes you want to share about this week of coverage?
Yeah, so it's all on tonemadison.com, and it's broken up into 5 pieces. There's our top 20 records list, and then we have like a 3-part roundup of different songs that we wanted to highlight. And Steven also wrote a piece to kind of wrap up the week that captures some odds and ends, interesting music videos and mashups and things like that. In the coming year, we're going to try to do more of this coverage and have our ear out there for interesting work that people are doing.
Heck to the yes. Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Bianca.
That was Scott Gordon, editor-in-chief and publisher of Tone Madison. We will link Tone Madison's 2022 top albums and songs list in our show notes. And here's what else Madison's talking about. This weekend marks the start of the Lunar New Year, a holiday most often celebrated by East and Southeast Asian cultures. The Farm to Kitchen Table Cafe, Pasture and Plenty, is hosting a live virtual cooking event tonight, January 19th, to celebrate. Chef Monique Liu is teaching an online dumpling making class. It's part of a wider campaign called Dump the Hate to raise awareness about anti-Asian violence. If you're interested, you can pick up a kit with all the ingredients you need so that you can make them tonight. The virtual demo starts at 6 p.m., and proceeds of the event will benefit Freedom Inc. We'll throw a link to the event in our show notes. Sticking with the food theme, sadly, after 2 decades of business, the beloved pizzeria Roman Candle announced they're closing their last remaining location. The Middleton shop will close February 4th. They shut their Willie Street location down last May. In their announcement, they wrote, quote, "Please keep supporting your local restaurants and businesses. They need your patronage now more than ever. Roman Candle, we will miss you." That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. We're produced by Molly Stentz and Dylan Brogan. Music is by Carl Christensen. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your favorite musician to follow or subscribe to our podcast? And rate us. It really helps others find the show. You can also get more news delivered right to your inbox from our friends at Madison Minutes. We'll be back next Tuesday morning with more stories from around the city. Talk soon. That is a bop. That's a full bop and a half. That's 100 bops.